Now, last segment of the stream. Wait, let me make sure that's right. Yeah, last segment of the stream, we got the Ralph Emil segment. And I feel like, you know, we're almost going into 4 hours here. We're really going. So I need some energy, chat. I need some pumped up energy. Let's get some energy, chat. Let's get some energy.
No. Please, God, no. Please, God, no. No.
Now you're gonna burn it all!
Yeah, we're gonna burn it all! All you motherfuckers! We're gonna destroy this whole fucking planet cause it's fucking worthless! That's why!
Look at how hunched his back is, Jesus.
You die in hell! Burn in hell!
Wait, that's crazy!
Every one of you
It's stronger than it was before!
He's like completely winded from this. I was gonna do some more. Let's see it. I remember hearing a story, I don't know if it was this, but I think it's at this scene where the English voice actor doing the screaming like passed out or like got lightheaded and almost fainted. Ralph is not in the physical condition that guy was in. I think it was Vic Mignogna even. Could be somebody else. I don't know. I don't remember. But that guy, Ralph is not in that physical condition. So he's not able to really master this. He's just going, ah! Which anybody can do, chat. Anyways, so he screamed. He got really excited. But let's see what else he's screaming about. First of all, he did a video called the Ralph Warski Festival. The Warski Festival, I watched a little bit of, and it was a truly bewildering thing. He had this crack on his stream, and she was basically dishing out some dirt on Andy Warski because apparently they knew each other very briefly. Oh, she's like a or something, or like a dance. She's like a what's the thing? A cabaret dancer. So she's basically like a titillation person, like technically like a. You can't say that, I guess, because it's not technically. But she said that Andy simped for her, and that was like her hot goss. Ralph became so bored of talking about Warski that he got... Who's that guy that was like at Charlottesville, and then he became a leftist and started dating a spicy Latinx? And I guess now he's on the right again, and for some reason anyone gives a f about what he has to say. Richard Spencer, that's it. Richard Spencer. He had Richard Spencer on for no reason. Richard Spencer had nothing to say, and he interrupted this trying to give her truth for like 30 minutes to let Richard Spencer talk about politics. And I tuned the f out because I could not possibly care less. And then Ralph screamed at me that I can't pull guests like Richard Spencer. Which almost tempts me to try and talk to Richard Spencer just to epically own the fat, but I'm not actually tempted enough to do that because who gives a f. The end result of this was that, okay, actually I remember why I brought up Richard Spencer, because one of the things that I remember being very awkward was that Ralph was literally doing a Warski Festival, and he had brought on like this trashy onto his stream to diss out the goss on Andy Warski. Richard Spencer joins, and then he immediately says, well, I think gossips are lowlifes, you know? I mean, I guess we all engage in a little bit of gossip, but I really think that Kino Casino, because he was insulting the Kino Casino, he's like, I think gossips like that are so trashy and below notice. And I'm like, does he know what fucking show he's on? He's on the fucking trashiest trash hard reject the world has ever seen on a show that's specifically about gossip. It was a whole festival to gossip with a gossiping on the same call as Richard Spencer. And Ralph just sat there and took the of Richard Spencer calling him trash to his face roundabout. And then afterwards, he publishes this. And I guarantee you that this message is 100% the consequence of Richard Spencer saying that gossip was trash. You ready? He says, I'm declaring a unilateral peace with the Kano Casino. I'm sure they will still trash me, and I'll laugh at them here and there, but I don't want to be associated with the low-class obsessive Spurgs who stalk them daily. I know the feeling. Perspec is a bum. Mr. K is even lower. These people couldn't sell ice water in hell, much less put out decent shows on their own. Still looking forward to the DSP crossover. This has nothing to do with that. So the outcome, the war being waged, the F Warski Festival ended in a unilateral surrender with no retaliation from Andy Warski, where Ralph randomly decided that he was just going to completely ignore them moving forward, all because his new E-Daddy, Richard Spencer, said that gossip was low-tier fucking garbage. That's how easily manipulated and coerced into doing things Ethan Ralph is. It's truly a remarkable psychological outcome, chat. During the stream, by the way, I think, or even before it, Ralph accidentally showed his internet history, and in that internet history, he showed that he has been searching things related to STDs and gonorrhea. Doctoralia, find a specialist. Sexual health clinic Merida. STI Dr. Merida who speaks English. Ways to handle chlamydia in Merida. And then down here, gonorrhea medicine. Amazon.com, my orders. And Dr. Alonzo, gynecologist, the clap, Andy Warski in a dress. STI doctor, STI HIV test, gonorrhea medicine. So this guy has a leaky, gangrenous penis. The only other person I knew who had gonorrhea was Chantal's Arab boyfriend. And she said it was swole up like a golf ball and it leaked green pus. So that's what's going on with the little hoglet right now. And he's trying to get this fixed. And what's really weird about this is the timing of the information about how Ariana Vickers, Mr. Vickers' wife or ex-wife, had an STI. And it was in the one of the lawsuits or something. Or no, it was in a restraining order complaint that I read, where someone was complaining that in their polycule, Ariana said that she was testing all her male friends that were her for STDs, but then I guess they caught an STD. So it's like, did Ralph get chlamydia or give chlamydia to Ariana Vickers, and now there's like a Ralph male gene line lineage of gonorrhea in California right now because Ralph, Mr. Vickers' wife? Like that, there is a non-zero chance that that's happening. In part because, by the way, Ralph had this 3-hour-long conversation with Jesse, who does the Pod Awful podcast, which, if you don't know, is a podcast that was originally dedicated to A-logging Dick Masterson. I listened to this entire video, and I came away with these notes, which I will simply read you. I broke them down into who they're talking about. Jesse. Remember when I was surprised that Jesse does not irritate me as much as I thought he would? Jesse is pretending that the show is for Ralph's own good, even though he's leaking intimate phone calls with him, which is bull. He shit on Cog, which made me laugh. Jesse said that I'm totally apolitical, except I believe he should be killed. You should be allowed to kill women if you want, and Ralph agrees. Ralph gets so f***ed up during this call that at the 2-hour mark, Ralph says something about Jesse, but he's talking about Jesse in the third person. And then he says, I'm talking to Jesse right now, as if he's like half asleep. He thinks he's on a live stream that he's producing. He's talking to an audience about Jesse, who he's replying to. And then he realizes in his head that he's talking to Jesse, but he's actually still kind of like out of it. And he thinks like, oh, he's on my show. And it's like, no, you're having a private phone call. So he can't even have like phone calls anymore because he's so f***ed up on Xanny berries. By the way, this was 1 week after he got out of rehab. He didn't stay sober outside of inpatient for 1 week. He was already f***ed up talking to Jesse, obviously high on Xanax or something, as he got out. The one thing that I learned in this that I really didn't know was that when May tried to leave Mexico, she actually told Ralph that she was leaving Mexico before she left, which is in line for the horse being the dumbest that's ever lived. So Ralph called the police, La Policia, and they showed up at the airport to try and prevent her from leaving. But Ralph was outside the country. So from the Mexican perspective, you have a woman who's leaving the country to the country that they're both citizens of, and the parent protesting this, who is a resident of Mexico, I guess they have laws preventing this, is outside the U.S. himself. So only because she waited to stick the knife in him, if she had tried to leave at any other time, I guess he could have just had her legally detained at the airport by the police. But because she waited, and this is pure dumb luck on her part, assuredly, because she waited until he was back in the United States, they had no legal reason to detain her from leaving the country herself. So she got out. But I did not know. That's a really dramatic story. That's like a movie. Oh, by the way, he talks about Xander on and on, but he never even mentions Rosie. Never once. Not once in the entire 3-hour call does he ever say the name Rosie by name directly. He also admitted he was not a good husband. He complained about Dick Masterson phoning in all of his appearances. He called Vito a repeatedly, and then also had repeatedly said that Vito was not a pedophile. So as he got more intoxicated, Vito became more of a... He says that he's done with Marie, who is Dick's long-term girlfriend, never wife. It says that when they did a event together, Mersh got paid $1,000 and Ralph got paid nothing, which made him very jealous and very angry to this day. He says that Dick always keeps him at arm's length and they never have real conversations. He never lets his guard down. Dick struck down a bunch of videos that made him look like I don't actually know what that's about, but apparently he did. Jesse basically called Ralph a fat and said that Vito was Ralph's fat replacement once Ralph lost weight, which is a dumb theory, to be quite honest, but it was kind of funny that he said that to his face. Ralph brought up a theory that Vito is Marie's child's real father, which I had never heard before, and he brought it up, and he seems to know them, so who knows at this point. Maybe he really is Ariana, and also Vito is the father. Can't wait for that kid to be born. Ralph says that he's more entertaining than Dick and says that he's better than those people. And I kind of agree that he's more entertaining, though better is very subjective. Ralph says that he's seen Marie's, and I think that's because she used to be a cam girl, but those videos were scrubbed. I've never seen any of her. So Jesse, this was a very interesting part. Jesse compared Dick to iDubbbz and said that Dick is with a cam girl, so therefore he's a cuckold in the same way that iDubbbz being married to an OnlyFans like Aniza is a cuckold. Ralph agrees with him, but then very interestingly, he disagrees that this is a bad thing. So he takes this weird straddle where it's like, yeah, I can kind of see the logic of that, but who cares? And it's like, buddy, are you okay? Honestly, I think that if we ever really know the degeneracy that Ralph gets up to when the stream is off, like, we only see what we see. But I bet you he keeps a lot of under wraps. Let's see. Oh, and then the real like meat of it, I guess, was that the reason why Dick and Ralph kind of split is that when Ralph was up there and the horse absconded and he was going to see Xander, he wanted to die. He was thinking of himself. And he told Dick Masterson this. So imagine how awkward this is for Dick. You have this fat sleeping on your couch. And Ralph was said that Marie and Dick were even arguing about him being there, apparently. Well, in earshot of him. You have this fat up on pills and alcohol at your house, lounging there. And he's telling you that he wants to die. He wants to... And he had like this like pity where it's like, if I kick him out, he might just kill himself. That would be a bad look. So put him in this really awkward position. And then he says, the only reason why I didn't kill myself is that I saw my son, Xander. Not Rosie, of course. Rosie. Nobody cares about Rosie. Xander, my handsome boy. And what really hurt him was that the day after, when Dick did his usual stream with Vito, he talked about how fucked up Ralph was. And he said, that really hurt my feelings. That my friends would go out there and say, what a drunk piece of I am. After I just told him I wanted to myself. And that was the straw that broke the pig's back, so to speak. And then that was that. That was the end of it. God, there's so much more. I will sum this up in a sentence to get over this. He says that he doesn't believe in spousal. Says that Mr. Vickers, he has information on Mr. Vickers that can destroy him and his emissaries, which is a weird word to use to describe the that suck up to Mr. Vickers. He brought me up out of propos nothing twice, actually, and Jesse never acknowledged this. So I guess I'm a forbidden word for Jesse to speak. He says he hates me. I hate that, but he still respects me for keeping the site up. And I said that Alice did suck his, so that was a really great job. And then he says that is disgusting. It wasn't, and a girl has to really want it. A girl wanting the pig is what actually turns him on, so he doesn't like. Jesse and Ralph both agreed out of nowhere that Alex Stein should be, for whatever reason. I think that Jesse I think Alex Stein got brought up. Jesse said that he should be, and then Ralph was like, yeah, I don't know if I can co-sign that. Then he gets brought up again. Jesse reiterates that Alex Stein should die, and then Ralph was like, yeah, probably, like something like that. So the Alex Stein question, there's no dispute. He's got it according to them. And then the big section that I skipped over. In this 3-hour-long call, at least 45 minutes of it is detailed to the absolute love that Ethan Ralph has for all things related to the asshole. He says that he loves to stick his thread, or his finger, in the asshole of women that he's because apparently, according to him, the butthole spasms of a female orgasm are undeniable. He knows for sure they're not faking it if the butthole starts spasming. So he likes to feel that directly. He also said he loves eating it. And more importantly, he loves having his eaten. And he said that May, the horse, has sucked his and that gave him the most mind-blowing orgasm he's ever had in his entire life. And then, at some point, Jesse says a trigger word, and everything I just mentioned and more is repeated in full a second time, as if he completely forgot that he just went over all of this. And by the end of this, what actually ends the conversation is that Ralph is off the topic of ass for once. Jesse says something, and then he starts talking about ass again, and Jesse's just like, bro, I gotta go. And then he hangs up the call. But Ralph was about getting ready for round 3, where he was about to gush over how much he loved. So that's the situation. That was the Ralph call. And then finally, one really bizarre update. So, speaking of thumbs up, when Ethan Ralph was thumbing of his, of the girl that he helped pick out a prom dress for, Faith Vickers, the mother of Xander, his only child that he really cares about. When the Gunt tape was released, it was not just published to the internet. It was not just posted on some website. It was sent to somebody. It was sent to somebody called a halfway crook. A halfway crook. Too many crooks. Too many crooks. A halfway crook was the Mexican boyfriend and lover of Faith. And he hated Ethan Ralph. And a halfway crook, he was like a leftist anti-fan of the Ralph retort. And because Ethan Ralph reminded Faith of her deadbeat loser father, fat father, and because her boyfriend she was trying to spite hated Ethan Ralph, that was literally the entire MO, the entire reason why she started flirting with Ethan Ralph and flew all the way across the country to get impregnated and put into a psych ward by him, was because of these two forces, spiting these two people. And when Ralph had this tape and Faith was gone, he sent a halfway crook the footage of him f***ing his girlfriend. That was why it was revenge. He was trying to cause emotional distress to this person that he had cucked. And now, many years later, a halfway crook, and the only update I've ever had for him, has announced to the public that he is out. Faith's ex-boyfriend, who took her to Disneyland and her at Disneyland, is now identifying as a woman. So this is the consequence of being cucked by the Ralph male. Your entire life is.
So I've wanted to do a thing, and every time I talk about it with somebody, they always say that it's a bad idea. So what I want to do is I want to take the movie franchise Saw, and if you don't know, it's really convoluted, and
There is he replies to this. It's down here. Actually, there it is. That's him, Faith's ex-boyfriend. And this is him now. Showing off the world. He's got a strapped to his head and he's smoking weed and he's a kawaii whittle small bean. Ooh. That is the danger of getting Oh yeah, I've been corrected by the chat. The Disneyland is not a halfway crook. I apologize. I did not mean to get this wrong. Oh, the Disneyland is the current boyfriend and stepfather to Xanda. A halfway crook was just the simp beta orbiter that got super mega cooked. Okay. He was like an online boyfriend that got big. Okay, I got you. Sorry, I did not mean to imply that. This is why he was so down bad. He simped for this lady. He simped for her and he was like, please let me drive up and get just a crumb. Just a crumb. And she said, okay, I'll fly out. But then she flew out to the Gunts and she got gunted and impregnated and put into a psych ward. That is the kind of emotional trauma that no one can stand, chat. That's what breaks you. And my voice is cracking because I've been talking for 4 hours straight. I don't know what you want from me. I'm done. Yeah, I'm actually done. That's it. That's the end of the stream. That's the Ralph update. That's the all beef stream. Almost 4 continuous hours of beef. If you enjoyed, please consider subscribing to the locals, Maddie.live/dono. I would love to see the locals get back up to what the government was as quickly as possible. If only to impress upon the locals people that no, really, you shouldn't ban me. I got fans, for real. I'm a Will Streamer.